Okay, the Module 10 lab activity about refraction. This is actually surprisingly straightforward. This is not a very difficult um, lab activity to do. The interface, the simulation itself is not very complex. There's just not that many moving parts, as it were. So, of course, you click here, begin. What you're going to see is you're going to see a beam of light. And here's the little dot is the source of the light. And the light is traveling, and it hits an interface between air and water. And it can either be reflected or it can be what's called refracted. So some light bounces off of the interface and goes off in this direction, and some light actually goes through the interface and then moves through the water. And that's probably the most important thing for you to understand in this activity, and I try to define it right off the top, is you have to understand what angle of incidence is, you have to understand what the angle of reflection is, and you need to understand the angle of refraction. And in order to understand that, you have to understand what's called a normal line. This line that is perpendicular. Remember, here's the interface. Here's where the air and water meet. This normal line is perpendicular to that interface. And you measure your angle of incidence, your angle of reflection, and your angle of refraction. All of those are measured from the normal line. So for example, my light is coming in this way. Its angle of incidence is measured from this normal line. So it's around 29 degrees, 28, 29, something like that. You can see these little dash marks. Each little dash mark is 1 degree. This is the angle of reflection. Again, also measured from the normal line. And finally, the angle of refraction is measured from this normal line to my refracted light. Okay? So you're going to use that information to create a data table. The data table will include all three of those angles: incident angle, reflected angle, and refracted angle. Initially, your first data table is going to be with this setup, with the light coming from the air and then moving into water. So those are your two substances, air and water, and the light traveling in this particular direction. And so that's going to help you answer questions 1, 2, and 3. When you get to question 4, the change is going to be, you're going to make another data table. This time, you're going to change the placement of the light. You're going to make the light start in the water and then move into the air. And you're going to answer a few questions. Then finally, for the last part of the experiment, it tells you to, again, switch your position of light so that your light is now, again, traveling from air to water. And it tells you to let your angle of incidence become 60 degrees. And then it asks you to just change your substance. So once you get it to 60 degrees, hit pause, leave it there. And then you're going to change the material that the light is traveling into just by clicking right here. Again, take a bunch of readings and answer some questions. And there you go. So it's, again, very, very few moving parts, relatively simple interface, and hopefully you'll learn a lot about refraction.